Сайн байцгаана уу хүнд үзэгчтэй. Өнөөдөр ороо манай дефактоны төрөлгийн зочноор монголчуудын сайн мэдих хөдөө аж ахуйн банкны гүйцэтгэх захирал байсан одоо Америкийн Монгол дахь Америкийн их сургуулийн төлөөлөн удирдсан үеийн дарга Питер Морроу оролцож байна.
Питер Морроу 2011 оноос хойш Монгол дахь Америкийн их сургуулийн удирдах зөвлөлийн даргаар ажиллаж байна. Өмнө нь 10 жил хаан банкны гүйцэтгэх захирлаар ажиллаж байсан. 40 гаруй жил Америк нэгдсэн улс болон хуучин социалист улс орнуудад банк санхүүгийн чиглэлээр ажилласан туршлагатай. Хойд Америк Монголын бизнесийн зөвлөлийн дэд дарга, Монголын урлагийн зөвлөлийн дэд дарга, Монголын бизнесийн зөвлөлийг үүсгэн байгуулагчдын нэг. 2007 онд Монгол улсын хөгжилд оруулсан хувь нэмрийн төлөө Алтан гадас одонгоор шагнасан. Harvard College, Georgetowны их сургуулийг тус төгссөн.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Peter, you are now a chairman of the American University of Mongolia. Please tell us about the university. What is this about?
Well, a group of us, Mongolians and Americans, decided to start this university. The premise is that Mongolia is going into a period of very rapid growth. Rapid growth is risky. It has to be managed carefully. It requires intelligent government regulation and management of government affairs, collection of taxes, regulating the environment, protecting the cultural history of Mongolia, managing the social transition that happens when you move to a more industrialized society. All of that requires talent. It requires education.
Certainly it is to be made by somebody.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Of course, we want to produce educated graduates who can get jobs. Families and graduates of university want to get good paying jobs, but it's more important than that because we have to fulfill all of those functions in Mongolia, not just mining or industrial production or commerce, but all the NGOs and the government functions are critical. So well-educated people is going to be a key part of the future of Mongolia.
So this university, American University, is not the first time in Mongolia. I mean, not the first time in Mongolia. This American University concept is all around the world. It has been, in several countries. Tell us, please, about that part.
Right. The word American University doesn't mean it's an American university. It is, in fact, a Mongolian NGO. It's grounded in Mongolia. It will be based here. The word American University is used around the world at about 35 universities. They're not affiliated. They don't manage each other. They're not affiliated with American University, for example, in Washington. It simply sends the message as a brand that it's an American-style university. It will be accredited in the United States and internationally. It will offer a liberal arts focus. In addition to hard skills, whether accounting or engineering or geology, it will offer liberal arts. Liberal arts means critical thinking, decision-making. Thinking about alternatives and not just connecting the dots. So it's a style of education.
So liberal arts in terms of, because we don't have a particular that subject in Mongolian universities, and you said now it's a creative thinking, alternative thinking of when you make decisions on certain parts. So the graduates are equipped with this sort of knowledge.
Right.
Why that is important, this liberal art?
Well, liberal arts is not itself a subject. It is an approach to education where you not only study, let's say you're going to be an engineer, you study engineering, or you're going to be an accountant, you study accounting, but you also study history, you study literature, you study sociology, anthropology, and other subjects. So you have a broader view of the world. So when you're doing your job, you may be doing an engineering job or an accounting job, but you're also thinking about the bigger picture. You're thinking about the problems that come up, how to solve those problems, how to think critically. That's what it's all about, a broader perspective, if you will, along with the hard skills that it takes to do the job.
Peter, I understand it comes with the concept that it's very important to approach to issues not only with the knowledge, but also with a critical way, with another possible alternatives.
Yes. Absolutely.
And hope this will be one of the different approach of this university towards education in this country. Yes. And you said certified in the U.S. Please tell us about that. What does that mean?
Well, it will be accredited. There are a number of accreditation agencies in the United States that accredit universities, and we will be fully accredited, which means our classes and our coursework and our hours of study will be transferable to other accredited institutions in the United States or around the world, and will be acceptable at graduate schools and students want to go on.
It's certified or by U.S. Department of Education, or
there's a layer. There are certifying entities that are NGOs, if you will. They are associations of universities in the U.S., and they are overall under an umbrella part of the Department of Education in the U.S. government. Yes.
So that means a student who will study at your university can have opportunity to go to other U.S. schools if they want. And
yes.
what they have done will be accepted there as their program.
Yes, the credit hours on a transcript from our university will
Yes.
be the same status as the credit hours on a transcript in a U.S.-based university.
So it's very versatile
Yes.
in that sense.
And that's the same as the other American universities. There are Mongolian students today at the American University of Central Asia, American University of Bulgaria, American University of Sharjah, American University of Dubai, various ones around the world, because Mongolian parents seek out that style of education, and it's normally less expensive than going to the United States.
So it would be a private university, but non-profit.
Private, non-profit, exactly.
Non-profit in the sense that out of the tuition you collect, you will develop the university furthermore.
The university will raise its money from many sources, including donations and tuition and others.
Yes.
No one will make a profit on the university. It is an NGO and a
Yes.
non-profit, but it is private sector in the sense that we're not part of the government.
Yes.
Of course, we're licensed as a university. We have
Yes.
received our license and regulated in that sense by the ministry, but we will not be part of the government system.
You got already those whatever licenses
Yes.
required from the Mongolian government.
Yes,
You are now ready to go off.
yes.
Have you done already some program?
Yes, we're teaching English language in an English Language Institute,
Okay.
which is very successful. Each few weeks we start a new class, and then we've been doubling the enrollments. We have highly skilled teachers who, with proper accreditations, teaching various kinds of English, beginning, intermediate, business English. There's lots of different kinds. We have been doing for over a year and a half now, executive education, jointly with the University of California at Berkeley and other institutions, 2, 3, 5-day programs for executives in specialized topics. Starting this fall, we will begin to offer an MBA, a Master's of Business Administration, jointly with the Kelley School of Business at the University of Indiana. That will be an MBA program, and we, of course, need to be licensed to offer those courses. Other academic offerings, we're anticipating the fall of 2014, depending on the economy, depending on how business grows, and how long it takes us to raise the funds in order to get open a full 4-year undergraduate institution.
Okay, since you have from fall 2014, do you have related or required material basis for that? Campuses, whatever?
No, we will open initially, as most of these new universities have, in office space somewhere near the center of the city. We will, and we're scouting locations right now, eventually build a residential campus somewhere in the area of Ulaanbaatar. That's a lot of money, and that will come in time. But we don't need to have that in place before starting the instruction. We're teaching right now on Seoul Street in our main offices, which will soon move to larger quarters because we've outgrown them. But we will be doing all of our teaching in the city for the time being.
Peter, obviously you know that in China there are several American universities, even they have own campuses, which is made by Chinese government somehow, help with them apart. And really they are very functional. And the students from that, the base university comes, and the students from here, they go there to England, to America. So is it a similar vision you have?
Not really. What you're talking about in China mainly is U.S. universities who have opened branch offices in China. And there are many of them. That's become very popular, especially in the area of business. But many universities have struck up joint ventures in China where typically the Chinese government or a municipality provides a campus and local facilities, and the University from America provides the teachers and the curriculum. That's not the model we're following here. We do not expect that the government of Mongolia will have substantial funds to build us a campus, for example, that we'll have to do that ourselves. And we will not be a U.S. curriculum and U.S. teachers. We will draw on that, for example, from Indiana. We will borrow teachers and curriculum from the Indiana School of Business, but primarily we will be a locally based university providing our own curriculum and instruction.
By the way, why Indiana?
We talked to a number of schools in the United States about the MBA program. Indiana is one of the best. It's in the top 15 business schools in the United States. They were the most enthusiastic about coming here. They have a lot of experience overseas. They teach a similar program in Seoul, Korea, for example, as well as elsewhere. And of course, Indiana, as many people know, is the home of the Mongolia Society. It is the university that has the most extensive Mongolian language and Mongolian cultural studies in the United States, and has had a long relationship.
It was there in
Mongolia.
that way for many years.
Exactly.
Baltimore, and many other.
Yeah, exactly.
Baltimore, I mean.
Yeah.
By the way, okay, let's talk. We will continue this education part after, but I mean, I cannot avoid these questions of your contribution to development of banking sector in this country. In particular, I remember when you were first coming many years ago with the USAID agency institutions to help that time Aga Bank, which was complete bankruptcy. So please tell us, how was that situation like this with, and at which year, and what was the situation?
Well, it was my lucky privilege and happenstance to have been selected by USAID and the World Bank to come to Mongolia to be the CEO of the agricultural bank at the time, as you say, in receivership. The government closed many of the banks back then in the late 90s. It could not close the agricultural bank because it was the only bank in the countryside providing services to people, the SUMs and IBANK centers. So it tried this structure of bringing in outside management, and it worked. We rebranded it Han Bank. It became the largest and most profitable bank in the country. And it basically provided me a new home. I came here on a 2-year contract, and here we are 13 years later. And I'm married to a Mongolian. I live here full time. I love it, and I'm involved in many things, many other things. I've retired from the bank, but in the university, the Arts Council, other for-profit businesses I'm on the board of. So I mean, I'm active, even though I've left the bank.
I remember the time when the people were suggesting you close down this non-profitable branches all around the country. Why you should do that? And I remember you were just completely against this idea.
Well, I didn't know. I wasn't against it. We had 269 branches, and I sent experts out to look at them. I gathered the facts before I made a decision. I was told that we would have to cut many of them back. In fact, my predecessors at the Mongol Bank Receivers had closed many branches. I discovered that these branches cost about 200,000 tugrik a month to operate, and only a few small loans would make them profitable. They were very profitable. So I called a meeting of all of our donors and our supporters and our friends, and I announced that we were cutting back the branch system, that I decided to cut it back from 269 to 271. And we just kept cutting back until we're now at 500. Because the people of Mongolia deserve banking services. They were willing to pay for banking services.
Sure.
They make the branches profitable. We remediated the money supply in the countryside, if you will, by bringing the money into banks and then relending it, which creates a multiplier effect. So it was a virtuous circle of good for the bank, good for the country of Mongolia, good for the people of the countryside. Cutting back the branches would have been a disaster. But I didn't know that till I actually got the facts, and then we knew to open branches, not close them.
And now Han Bank is one of the flagship bank in the country, doing well, bringing banking service to all around the country. And certainly, of course, a lot of contribution of your team. And when you were CEO of Han Bank, I recall I visited several times your office, and you had a magnificent collection of Mongolian artworks. How come?
Well, when I came here, I found that Mongolia had an incredibly rich arts culture. And it had different levels of arts culture, different layers. It had the traditional Mongolian arts. It had things like the long song and the Morrow, and things like the snuff bottles and milk cans and designs on saddles and stirrups and amazingly old Mongolian culture. And then it had a layer of essentially Russian introduced culture. It had opera, ballet, symphony, classical music, Western style music that was quite good and still is. And then it had this vibrant new contemporary art scene of artists who were doing all manner of painting, sculpture, performance art. So you had, I don't know of many places in the world where you have that level of choice between the really old and deeply cultural and a European traditional art and the very contemporary. It struck me that the contemporary art needed supporting. The artists were selling their very huge and very wonderful canvases for not much money. And so we, at the bank, we started the Mongolia's first corporate art collection. We simply filled up the walls full of art. It's a good investment. It makes it a nice place to work. People who visit enjoy seeing the art. It puts money into the artistic community. It's a win for everybody. My first purchases were about 35 paintings from about 15 artists. The bank's collection is now more than 300 pieces and is on display in the head office for anyone
Now
to see.
all this belongs to Han Bank.
All belongs to Han Bank. I made a commitment to the artists in the beginning. When I first bought the art in 2002, Han Bank was just very small. We didn't have a lot of money. And so I was very tough on prices. I hammered the prices down, and the artists didn't like that. But I said, look, this is Mongolian patrimony. This is a Mongolian bank. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be here forever. But that's the commitment I made. This is Mongolian art in Mongolia and Mongolian bank.
I think the value-wise now it's quite worth a while. At the same time, also you have been one of the important influential figure in the development, in the foundation and further development of Art Council of Mongolia. Please tell us about this institution and what was your doing there.
Well, the Arts Council has been a wonderful success. The Soros Foundation opened in Mongolia in the mid-90s with several different programs: political reform, education, and including an arts and culture program. When they decided in the early 2000s that they had been successful and it was time to close up and go home, rather than just leave the functions to die, they facilitated the creating of an NGO and turned it over to a group of community people. So the first year or two, the Soros Foundation continued to provide 100% of our funding, but they put together a board of Mongolian and foreign folks, and we set out to raise our own money. And today our budget is 3 times what it was in 2002 when we started. It's about $700,000 to $800,000 a year, and Soros provides about 5% of it. We raise all the rest of the money ourselves. So we've proven that an NGO with the right purpose and the right very good management can raise money, can support the arts in the community. It happens to be arts and culture in our case, but it could be education or the environment or anything else in a very transparent way.
I understand the Art Council is doing quite a good job in the country in promoting arts, modern contemporary arts, and also inspiring our artists.
Right, right.
Another thing it is also very much connected with you is North America Mongolia Business Council. You were a chair here. Please tell us about the organization. And later on, also that you have created BCM.
Right.
Please tell us about 2 organizations.
Well, the original traditional foreign business council in Mongolia was the North America Mongolia Business Council, which started in 1991. And I, in the early 2000s, became the local chair here in Mongolia. It's based in Washington, D.C. Several years ago, in 2007, a group of us locally here decided that we needed something different. We needed something more, because it wasn't just trade with the United States or with Canada. In fact, it was a whole range of business issues and business climate issues here that needed to be addressed by important investors on the ground. So we made an arrangement, a very good arrangement, very cooperative with the NAMBC to split off and form a second organization. They call us their brother organization. We call them our sister organization. But we created the Business Council of Mongolia, which is not focused on any particular country outside of Mongolia. It's focused on Mongolia. We have members of, I think we have 8 embassies from the U.S. and many others who are members of our association. And we have substantially all foreign investors of consequence and all large Mongolian companies are members. We have over 100 volunteers working on working groups and task forces on right here critical important issues to Mongolians. It's not just big business or big mining companies that this invests. It's everyone. Everyone profits when business goes well and there are jobs created in the supply chain and employment. So that was the whole purpose of the BCM that we set up 5 years ago now.
Now BCM is doing good, creating information, disseminating information in English as well to not only their members, and which is being a crucial part of our Mongolian business world.
Right.
And that's a great job, but it's one of those things you have been doing in this country. You got received Polar Star of the country for the jobs you. Where do you keep that Polar Star?
Oh, it's at home in an antique Mongolian box, along with my snuff bottle and other important possessions, and in my study at home. Yes.
All right. You got children now.
I'm sorry?
You got a child.
I do.
How old is he?
I have 3 children. I have children who are 35, 33, and 2.
Okay.
The one here is 2.
All right. A boy?
A little girl.
A girl. Okay. I mean, what you, in your life, early childhood, who were the most influential person in your life? Your father, and you went obviously after to Harvard College and Georgetown. Who was the most influential person?
Well, I grew up in a small town. I grew up in a we call a county seat in the United States, which is the equivalent of a SUM center, and it was a small community. My parents and family and close friends, everybody knew everybody, and so naturally, my role models and people that were important in my life were my family and my parents and people in the community. Later on, I went to Harvard and Georgetown, and I've spent my life in big cities and foreign places, like living in Mongolia. But
so after Harvard, you have decided to be a banker, or how you have started your professional career?
Well, after Harvard, I wasn't sure what I was going to study, so I went to law school in Washington, and I worked at the same time at the Export-Import Bank in Washington, which is a big government bank, and I decided to be a banker. So I wound up staying in banking and have done that for most of my career.
You have been, prior to Mongolia, working for commercial banks.
I worked for commercial banks in the U.S. I'd also run a consulting company that worked in the financial world, so in and around banking, yes.
You became a businessman, then in Mongolia you become a banker back. Now you are doing the most important job in education field in the country. Back to the school, you said you have MBA program from next year, from this year. How many students do you expect to have, and how expensive would it be?
Our target is to open with 25, a minimum 25 students in the first cohort, and grow from there. And the expense depends on how long you take to do it. It will be over the course of 2 or 3 or 4 years, depends on how long a student chooses, how much time they have to devote to it during the week. Most students will be working while they're studying. But it will be a total of about $50,000. That would be $25,000 a year for 2 years, or $12,000 a year for 4 years, depending on how you cut it up. That is a lot of money compared with the cost of education in Mongolia. However, it's not a lot of money compared with the cost of private secondary schools in Mongolia, and it's much less than an MBA in the United States or comparable other
places.
Plus
you
no
go
travel.
there, you leave
travel,
there bored.
No board, exactly. So it's much less expensive, but you're getting the same exact education you're getting from one of the top 15 schools in the U.S. that would cost more than twice that.
One of the conditions to have that tough, high, good education in MBA there is a condition is really very much proficiency of English. And so everybody will have particular tests like to the U.S. When we go, I went to the U.S. and TOEFL and then GMAT. Both these exams are required?
Yes. Yes, and you're absolutely correct. We started the English Language Institute. The whole idea behind it was to educate our own students, because except for a very few kids who grew up overseas or their parents were diplomats for some reason, there are not a lot of 18-year-olds entering into university. Even if they speak good English, it's not academic English.
True.
So they need some help, some a little bit, some more than a little bit. So that is the primary reason behind the English Language Institute. We started it 2 years in advance. We're serving the public. We're serving companies teaching English. So we're getting underway. We're getting a lot of experience. But clearly, most incoming students will need some help in English.
Yes. Those will be. Will it be a requirement for future MBA students to go through the English Language Institute?
No, it will be a requirement that you take a TOEFL test and that you meet the requirement. And if you don't meet the requirement, then we will help design a program that will get you up there. And for some students, that might be a semester. For some students, it might be a year. Some students, it might be part-time. Some students could start school, study math and science, and take English on the side. Others would need to study English full-time for a while. It depends
on the
entirely
capacity.
on the test results and the individual.
All right. And the college, which we hope to start next year in the country, American University College, that program will be exactly as like a Indiana University College type of program.
Well, obviously we're going to start small. It's Indiana University has 100,000 students on its campus. We'll have 200 when we start and grow from there. So we're working very hard to introduce, for example, an engineering curriculum. We're working with the University of Alaska in Anchorage to do a business plan and study for bringing up that engineering curriculum. Engineering is important. It's in demand in Mongolia. It's needed. But also, when you do engineering, that brings along with it math and chemistry and physics and all those other things. And you supplement that with the liberal arts courses that are necessary. We are already doing executive education and the MBA, as we discussed. So it's not a big leap to a business school, which would require, obviously, funding as well as an engineering school. So you'd have a full business school and offer an undergraduate. And then you grow. You grow life sciences, for example, biology, and those sorts of sciences are important. We're discussing with U.S. universities on partnershiping on those kinds of things. So we'll grow. We're not going to start out like.
You have mentioned University of Alaska in Fairbanks. That they will do engineering curriculum. You said, should be Alaska is something that is close in terms of geographic conditions, climate, etc.
Right.
Is it that selection because of that condition, or?
Not exactly, but sort of. We raised money from some mining companies, from Rio Tinto, from Moniz, from MCS. We're raising some more, and we thank them for that, to finance a business plan and a study, and we are hiring the University of Alaska Fairbanks to do that. Once we have that study, we'll know what a full engineering school takes in terms of money, campus, faculty, curriculum, and we will then raise the money to do that school. That might be with the Alaskan University, or it might be with one of many other good engineering schools. So we're not committed for the long term with Alaska, but at least we're going to start out doing the study. They had been here, the head of their mining engineering department had come to Mongolia, in part because the conditions are similar, and he was doing some consulting and work here. And he's very excited, actually, about developing the concept of cold weather mining center of excellence. Cold weather mining is different than warm weather mining. The cold weather does different things to equipment and the ores. So since 40% of the world's deposits are in the Arctic Circle or in the subarctic, there is a huge demand for this discipline. So it's entirely possible that we'll develop a center of excellence for cold weather mining headquartered right here in Ulaanbaatar, or maybe the Gobi. By the way, when we talk about mining engineering, and it's not a given that it would necessarily be in Ulaanbaatar, it might well be in the Gobi region, close to the mining.
I think it's in the line of our plan to have to be competitive in certain industries, including mining, logistics, service.
Sure.
If our people educated like this here, here in the country with that curriculum, they can serve other countries from Mongolia.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's completely in the line of future plan of the country.
Absolutely.
And I'm very glad to hear that you have a corporate sponsorship from the world largest companies like GE or Rio Tinto, and plus also Mongolian companies like MCAs, Mondis, which is very
Newcom, which is one of our original founders.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So, which is really you are all the winds blow to your. How do you see the Mongolia is going to make a new camp around the Ulaanbaatar city? They keep talking for quite some time. I don't know what's now on, but would it be similar concept with you? Do you plan to go outside of Ulaanbaatar city?
We don't want to go too far outside of Ulaanbaatar city because we will be an international university. We will have a lot of exchange students. We'll be having a lot of faculty and researchers coming here from overseas. So as an international institution, we really don't want to be too far away from the main city of the country. However, that doesn't mean we necessarily be right in the city. We're looking at a number of different locations. You know, we could consider something down by the new airport, for example, or something out by Nalik, or something to the west. There are a number of regions around Mongolia that do have utilities and are within reasonable commuting distance that we could consider, but we have not made that decision.
And plus, of course, do you vision that not only from Mongolia, but Russia, China students coming to your university?
Well, we will welcome, we're not primarily for students outside of Mongolia, but we would welcome students outside of Mongolia, and we'll see. I think, at least initially, the discussions we've had with overseas institutions would be to take in students who would come here, for example, for a semester abroad, a student who would come here on a Fulbright scholarship between undergraduate and graduate school, graduate students who would come here to do research along with their sponsors and professors. You know, there's a tremendous amount of research going on in Mongolia because researchers discovered 20 years ago when Mongolia opened up to the world that it was pristine. There are rivers here, there's air here, there's ground here, there's steppeland here, there are lakes here that are untouched in all history. They're not dammed, they're not polluted, and you can study things that can't be studied anywhere else. So there's been a steady stream, I see them, and other academics do, a steady stream of researchers in all fields, in anthropology, and history, and music. So this is a great place to study. So we have a lot of interest in institutions, primarily in the U.S., where we're talking to, of doing joint programs where they bring students over for a summer or a semester or
That's
a year.
great. You will continue this tradition.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's why you have a lot of research
Right.
arm in the school.
We will be promoting lots of different kinds of research, absolutely. And we would see ourselves as a logical partner in Mongolia for many of these research operations, whether they're parts of universities or NGOs or what, who are coming to Mongolia. Whether we get a lot of students from immediate area coming in for a 4-year undergraduate program, frankly, I doubt a lot of Chinese students, 18-year-olds, will come up here for a 4-year program in Mongolia. We'll see. Would we attract from Siberia? You know, there are no English language American accredited universities in Siberia. Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, there are universities there, but just a couple or three, maybe. We'll see. But we're not targeting it to bringing in large numbers of outside Mongolia.
Finally, I cannot but ask questions about the current environment, business environment in the country from you, who were in this spot for many years. You are still in. I mean, last year we have passed this law, which very much sort of allowed to slow down the whole foreign direct investment inflow to the country. What's your take on that today?
My take is that we're 23 years into a free market economy and a democracy in Mongolia. That means in United States terms, it's 1799. This is a very, very young country, had no history of free markets or democracy. And we make mistakes. But the progress has been remarkable. The potential is remarkable. We have times that look, if you read the the international press, The Economist and the Wall Street Journal 2 years ago, this was the finest place in the world to invest money. And in the last 6 months, you read the same magazines, and it's the worst place in the world to invest money. It's neither. It's a frontier market. It's growing rapidly. It has huge opportunity. And we go through these periods. It was a really bad time in 2006. We got over that. And then it was a really good time for a while, and now everybody's feeling bad about things. The government will get it right. It will take time. And we have this law needs changing. The government's already announced they're going to change it.
Yes.
There's precedent. If you will recall, they passed a windfall profits tax in
Yes.
06. It was a very bad law and a very bad idea, and they changed it. So, okay, we fixed the mistakes, but let's don't get too upset about mistakes in a 23-year-old country.
Okay, so you're quite optimistic.
I'm optimistic. That's why I'm here. I wouldn't live here. I'm investing. Right as we speak today, I'm investing my personal money in companies and situations in Mongolia because I believe in the place.
Great. Peter, that's what is interesting always about you. You have been at the difficult times, at the good times, and still optimistic. And thank you for first coming to this program, and also thank you for doing this everything. I mean, this is non-profit work. You do a lot your time for making education system of this country comparable with the world.
This is a reverse job. In this job, I pay in order to work.
Okay. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
All the best.
Very nice to see you.